Ulforce is back in action with hyper speed attacks unsuspending non-stop thanks to the new support from BT22 Cyber Eden. Let's go ahead and talk about the new build and updated version that I've been working on. The archetype begins with the Veemon line as it digivolves up through its levels into Veedramon, AVAULT, and then UlforceVeedramon, which is completely different to Magnamon or Imperidramon. The playstyle of the deck is super easy to understand. As you climb up into your level 6, all you want to do is gather your blue Tamer cards, which is going to mainly be your arena, and then play them off the effects for free alongside with UlforceVeedramon. By doing so, you can unsuspend your UlforceVeedramon and it can make multiple attacks and gain bonus buffs alongside with its inherent effects and the arena that supports it. BT22 gave us a whole new UlforceVeedramon ace that we can counter against the opponents to bounce their Digimon or even play out Tamers. After playtesting, I still feel that the BT11 UlforceVeedramon should be the main way to go, just because being able to attack non-stop is still your main key win condition. Overall, the new cards gives the archetype even more new combos that I can execute in the early stages of the game. So let's go ahead and begin talking about the build. Starting with the Digi-Eggs cards, I'm currently running the 4 copies of the Veemon from the tournament pack. It is the main source of draw power whenever you play out a blue Tamer. There's also the older BT11 Veedramon, which most players used to run, which I'll talk about more in the tech choices as well, but overall both eggs give you the same outcome with a slightly different condition. Therefore, I like the Veemon currently just because you're able to draw instantly as soon as you play out Tamer without committing an attack just yet. Now let's talk about level 3s, which are going to be our rookies, and it's all going to be Veemons. Starting with the new BT22 Veemons, I'm running 4 copies of this card just to simply reduce our dissolution cost as we climb up into our level 4 Veedramons. The archetype now gained another form of protection, which prevents it from leaving the battle area from your opponent's effects by suspending itself, similar to Evade. Alongside together with it, you're pretty much well covered from your stack throughout the entire course of the game. As for the other Veemon, I'm still running 4 copies of the older one from BT11, just as the main searcher of the deck, potentially getting 2 hits grabbing anything with Veedramon in its name alongside with your blue Tamer. The inherent effect to gain a memory is still fantastic when you go into Ulforce and you play out your arena, so you can gain 1 back, potentially keeping your turn, or gain additional memory to make even more plays. Lastly, to round off for the rest of the rookies, I'm running 2 copies of the older Veemon from EX1, just for the inherent effect to also gain a memory when we unsuspend. Now let's talk about level 4s, starting with the all-new Veedramon from BT22. I'm running 4 copies of this card. When you digivolve into it, as long as you have 1 or fewer Tamers, you can instantly play out arena from your hand for free. One thing you might be thinking, what's the point of playing out your arena that early? Because you normally want to save up your Tamers in your hand when you get into Ulforce to play them out for free instead so that you can unsuspend. The thing is, you get to synergize this card alongside with the new BT22 arena, as it can return itself back to the hand, so you can make some early chipped damage if you ever need to. And just like the new Veemon, it provides exactly the same inherent effect in the form of protection by suspending itself. Next, I'm also running 4 copies of the promo Veedramon, which is intended to help us search and grab even more pieces when we get into it. Finding both our stack pieces and our Tamers is incredibly important in order to help us get to our win condition as quickly as possible. And just like the inherent effect of the EX1 Veemon, we get to gain a memory back when the stack unsuspends. Now I know that this card is quite pricey at the time of making this video, and not many of you guys have access to it, and I really hope we get a reprint soon. But in the meantime, I also have other suggestions for you guys in the tech choices later on what other level 4s and Veedramons you guys can also play instead of this card if you don't have it. But to sum up for the rest of the level 4s, I'm running 1 copy of Landamon, which is my choice of hybrid for game, just because sometimes you can make an additional attack or even potentially climb up all the way into your stack all over again, even without having a rookie ready to go and raising. Level 5s, let's talk about AVAULT with the all new one from BT22. I'm running 3 copies of this card. When you play or digivolve into this guy, you get to bomb deck one of your opponent's Digimon with level 4 or lower, which is great for low end removal. And at the end of the turn, you get to unsuspend any one of your blue Digimon, which can be itself or another Digimon that you have on the side. Its inherent effect also lets your UlforceVeedramon to further unsuspend to dish out attacks without necessarily needing to play a blue Tamer if you have one established on the board already. Overall, giving you a lot of flexibility on how you want to conduct your attacks as you unsuspend during your own turn. But keep in mind, since this effect is all turns as well, meaning if you ever suspend your UlforceVeedramon to protect itself or evade the opponent's attacks during their turn or even block them, you get to unsuspend and get your UlforceVeedramon ready once again. Then for the older AVAULT, I'm running 4 copies of the one from BT11. I still think that this is the main focus of the level 5 you want to get into, mostly just because you want to search and dig through and grab your Tamers. And the nice thing about this effect is that you're not limited to only grabbing 1 Tamer. As long as you review 2 or 3 from the search, you can grab all of them. And the other advantage of this effect is that it can suspend itself without necessarily making an attack, which can be dangerous at times, and then that sets you up to go into Ulforce to unsuspend afterwards. The inherent effect allows you to reuse your arena's on-play effects, where you can go with the BT11 one to give something block or evade again, or with the new one to further DP buff your stack. That's it for level 5s. Now let's talk about level 6s. And like I mentioned in the beginning of the deck, I think the BT11 UlforceVeedramon is still the way to go, which is why I'm running 4 copies of this card. Its When Digivolving effect allows you to play out a blue tamer from your hand for free, and it's really important because it's not once per turn. Its second effect is that when you play out a blue tamer, this Digimon gets to unsuspend, and it's also not once per turn. Its last effect though is once per turn. When Ulforce unsuspends, you get to bounce one of your opponent's Digimon that's level 3 or lower, but for every blue tamer you have set on the board, you get to increase the level you can bounce by another 1. And since Ulforce is incredibly good at setting up multiple tamers, you can easily reach levels beyond 6 and 7 that you can bounce. As for the BT22 Ulforce Ace, I'm currently only running 1 copy. Since it is an Ace card, you can blast Digivolve during the counter timing with your opponent's attacks, otherwise you have to Digivolve it yourself for 4 memory during your own turn. When you play or Digivolve into this guy, you have 2 choices. You either get to play a blue tamer from your hand for free, or you get to bounce one of your opponent's Digimon with the lowest level on the board. Overall, I can see that this is almost like a rehash of the BT11 one, but just in the form of Ace, which gives you a little bit more versatility. Then to wrap up the rest of the level 6s, I got 2 copies of UlforceVeedramon X Antibody from BT12. When you Digivolve into this card, you can either unsuspend itself or one of your blue tamers, which is intended to give you that final attack to close out games. Generally, the only times you ever would get into this card is once you exhausted all your blue tamers from your hand that are played out for free from the BT11 UlforceVeedramon's effect, and then once you get into this guy, that is really intended to go for the final attack. It also has a second effect to bounce your opponent's lowest level Digimon back to their hand when this Digimon unsuspend, and it's also all turns, which is really good at synergizing together with the new Veedramon as you can do it more consistently. And the nice thing to keep in mind is that this also happens when you unsuspend during your unsuspend phase. Otherwise, you can further disrupt your opponents during their turn if you ever have blocker on your Ulforce X. Now, I have a bit of a feeling that we might be getting a new UlforceVeedramon X relatively soon, just because Gallantmon received a new X antibody from EX8, Magna X got a new form from the Gold Digizoid mode from BT16, as well as a new Omni X from BT20, which is not too long ago. So I feel like it's just about time, and there's a high chance that this Ulforce X might have a combination of the yellow and blue colors, maybe with another third color, but we'll see when the time comes. Or there is also future mode, which I anticipate for it to come sometime down the road. So if you're an Ulforce fan yourself, then make sure to give this video a like in hopes of wishing for it to come sooner rather than later. And when the time comes, I'll definitely be covering updates for this deck as well. So make sure to subscribe and turn on that notification bell to stay tuned. That's it for all of our Digimon. Now let's talk about Tamer, starting with the all new Rena from BT22. I'm running 3 copies of. This card is a memory setter for the deck now, so you can start your turn at 3 memory. And the whole idea is to play her out, which gives your Veedramons extra 3000 DP that lasts until the end of the opponent's turn. Her last effect is also fantastic because you get to recycle her by bouncing it back to your hand to give your Veedramon jamming, and while you do so, that's how you can synergize along together with UlforceVeedramon from BT11 as well as the BT11 Rena to play her back out over and over without necessarily needing to play that many blue tamers in the deck anymore. And speaking of the BT11 Rena, I'm still running 4 copies of this card, which you mainly want to focus on for sure as well, just because it can help repeat your UlforceVeedramon's effects over and over to play out more tamers, gain memory, and also give your Digimon evade and blocker that lasts until the end of the opponent's turn. Just like the promo Veedramon, which I mentioned earlier, this card is also relatively pricey and not many players have access to it just because BT11 is a rather older set, but don't worry, there is a reprint already on the way with the new Heroine set 2, where this card is included with a different alt art. So if you're looking to build this deck, make sure you grab that product as soon as you can. And then to wrap up the rest of the Tamers, I'm still running the 2 copies of the old promo V-Tamer tie that is intended to support the Veedramon archetype. By suspending this card during your own turn, as long as you have a Veedramon on the board, you get to gain one of the following effects. Either you get to draw a card to help you find more pieces as you need, or gain additional 1000 DP for the turn to ensure that your Veedramon stack can swing over things. Ultimately, this Tamer only costs you 2 memory to play, which you don't always necessarily need to play out for free with the BT11 Ulforce, since you do gain additional memory. If you have enough to work with, there are times you can just hard drop this so that your UlforceVeedramon can unsuspend immediately as well. Option cards are all going to be the blue staples, which I'm currently running 4 copies of Mental Training, 2 copies of Blue Memory Boost, and 2 copies of Blue Scramble. Generally, for stack-based building decks, I would try to recommend running more Blue Memory Boost instead of training cards, just because you need to search and grab your pieces of the stack. However, since this is a relatively Tamer heavy deck after all, you want to see your Tamers alongside with it, so you don't want to end up bottom decking them, which is why I included 4 copies of Mental Training instead of 4 copies of Blue Memory Boost. But of course, you can always juggle the ratios based on your own personal preference and experiences. Tech choices and other cards that you guys can also include, aside from the promo Demi Veemon egg, you can still run the older BT11 Veedramon, which also gives you a draw power as you attack, as long as you have a blue tamer on the board. This gives you a little bit of better late game draw power so that you can attack first, draw, and potentially grab a tamer and then play out for free off Ulforce. So like I mentioned earlier in the video, it's really up to you on what preference you prefer when it comes to the draw power, so you can pick and choose depending on what egg you want to go for the build. There's also the starter deck 8 Veemon, which you can include to help you warp into UlforceVeedramon for 4 memory as long as the opponent has a level 6 or higher Digimon. Otherwise, this inherent effect is still fantastic to let you draw cards as you attack, which is not once per turn as long as you have 7 and fewer. So in the early stages, if you really need to ramp up cards in your hand, this can help you get there very quickly. Other Veedramons that you can also include, aside from the promo one, would be the one from BT11. You can also play Gold Veedramon from EX4 or the promo Veedramon 0 as well. The BT11 Veedramon would be my main go-to just because it can help you gain a memory with its inherent effect. You also get to draw a card when you play out a tamer if you ever go for an early push. Gold Veedramon has Armor Purge so that can protect the stack from deletion, and it can also stun down your opponent's Digimon while DP reducing them as well. And if you ever have the BT11 Rena, you can also block attacks in the early stages. Then there's also Veedramon 0, which can cycle cards back to the bottom of your deck from the trash and draw a card as you attack, and it's also not once per turn, so as you unsuspend with your Ulforce, you can do it multiple times. You can also include the starter deck 8 Veedramon if you want additional power just to gain security attack +1, as long as you have 8 or more cards in your hand, which gives the deck a little bit more explosiveness. If you're looking for any level 7s to include, there's always the Blitz Omni or the Omni X from BT20 to make that additional final attack to close games off, or you can play Paladin mode Ace to counter against trash-based decks, or there's also Gabubon Ace, which you can instantly bomb deck 2 of your opponent's Digimon, and it can also unsuspend as you attack as long as you have a tamer on the board. Speaking of tamer, you can still include the original BT3 Davis just as another memory setter, but also to help you search for cards in the early stages if you ever need to find pieces for your stack. Combos and how to play the all-new updated UlforceVeedramon deck for BT22. It is still very similar to before. It is a stack-based building deck, so you want to climb up into your 3s, 4s, 5s, and 6s, which is really important to find your stack, and at the same time, you want to search and grab your tamers along the way as well, which is mainly going to be your Rena as well as your Tai Kamiya V-Tamer. Ideally, you want to prioritize your BT22 Veemon to be digivolved at the back, and then use your BT11 Veemon to search and find your pieces, and also digivolve into your Veedramons outside as much as possible. And to gather for more even stack building pieces, use Mentor Training and Blue Memory Boost to fetch for any missing levels that you need in order to climb up. Eventually going into Arrow Veedramon, you can start using its effect to find your tamers, or the other newer Arrow Veedramon to unsuspend, and then you can threat the Ace cards with UlforceVeedramon Ace, or ideally you want to get into your BT11 as soon as possible with a ton of tamers in your hand so you can start attacking non-stop over and over and use Ulforce X to finish games off. So for the first combo, I'm going to show you guys how you want to utilize the new BT22 cards to climb all the way up quickly to pressure an ace against your opponents, and 1 memory is all you need with the BT22 Veemon ready to push out and ready to go. We're going to digivolve into the new Veedramon with the cost reduced by 1 thanks to the Veemon, so we're only going to pay 1 memory, and since we have 1 or fewer tamers, we can establish a early Rena on the board, and we're going to play out the BT22 Rena, which on play is going to give the Veedramon right here extra 3000 DP that lasts until the end of the opponent's turn. Since we played out a tamer, we get to draw a card with Demi Veemon as well, and we're just going to go ahead and attack with that Veedramon. As we attack with it, we get to use this Rena's other effect of your turn to return it back to the hand to give this Veedramon jamming. And with that, you'll be able to deal early chip damage into your opponent's security, which is a relatively safe swing thanks to having jamming. And the other nice thing is, since you return this Rena back to your hand, that means you will have a tamer that you can play out with Ulforce's effects later on. To pass the turn, gonna digivolve into the new Arrow Veedramon for 3 costs. And then with its when digivolving effect, we get to bomb deck one of the opponent's Digimon that's level 4 or lower, and then we also get to unsuspend it at the end of the turn. With it being unsuspended, if it would ever leave the battle area by your opponent's effects, we can use the inherent effects of the Veedramon and Veemon to protect itself by suspending it like that. Otherwise, by establishing this level 5 on the board, if the opponent attacks into us in the following turn, this is where we can threaten the Blast Ace of going into the new UlforceVeedramon Ace, and if the opponent does that, we can digivolve it easily just like that, and then bottom deck one of the opponent's Digimon with the lowest level on the board, or we can replay that same Rena that we returned to the hand to give it another extra 3000 DP buff. Alternatively, instead of playing this Rena, you can actually play out the older Rena to give it blocker and evade for the turn as well, and then since you blast counter first before the block timing, you can also block the opponent's attacks with this UlforceVeedramon, and then the Arrow Veedramon all turns effect is going to kick in, allowing it to unsuspend as well. For this combo, I'm going to show you guys how you can climb all the way up into a UlforceVeedramon, and all you need is a blue memory boost with vendor training set up. And ideally, I would like to have the BT22 Veemon ready and raising, but generally you can have any of these other Veemons in the stack as well, because they can help you gain a memory as you unsuspend to help you achieve the same ending condition. But I generally like this one a little bit more just because I have the protection effect of all turns as well. So we're going to push out the Veemon here. We're going to use its effect to reduce the Digivolution cost to go into the promo Veedramon for 1, and then we're going to use this when Digivolving effect to search through the top cards of our deck to grab anything within the stack, as well as Tamers as well that we need. Now I'm going to pop the blue memory boost to gain 2 memory, and also using the mental training to Digivolve into AVAULT for 1 cost. And by suspending the AVAULT with its main effect, we want to search through the top 3 cards of our deck and grab any Tamers that we have as much as we can, and ideally we want to see all of our blue Tamers and grab them and have them ready to go. This is really good because it is suspended without needing to attack here, so we're not going to be playing into opponent's aces or any disruptions that they may have. And then to end the turn, I'm going to Digivolve into Ulforce here for 4 memory, which is then going to use the when Digivolving effect, allowing me to play out this Rena. When it's on played, I get to give it evade and blocker until the end of the opponent's turn, and since the Tamer is played out, I get to unsuspend, and because I unsuspended, I'm going to gain a memory with the Veedramon and gain another memory for Rena, passing the opponent to only 1 memory to work with. And here I have a blocker with evade, which also has the protection effect of Veemon if it ever happens. And because I play out a Tamer as well, I also get to draw a card with Demi Veemon. And now for the infinite attacking combo, what I'll show you guys on how you can continue to unsuspend Ulforce again and again and again, as long as you have the ammunition by having all these different Tamers in your hand that you're ready to go. And all you need is 1 Rena set up already, just like from the prior turn, and 1 memory. You can start attacking with Ulforce. Once you do so, suspend this Rena to activate its when Digivolving effect so that we can go ahead and play out this Rena right here. Now we get to activate AVAULT when attacking, to activate this on play of Rena to give it blocker and evade. And then we also get to draw a card with Demi Veemon since we play a Tamer. This Rena on play is also going to give the UlforceVeedramon extra 3000 DP. And because we played out a Tamer, we get to unsuspend. Because we unsuspended, Veedramon and the Rena is going to gain a memory each. And now the last effect of Ulforce is going to kick in to bounce the opponent's level 3 or lower Digimon back to their hand. And since we have 2 Renas, we can now bump it all the way up to a level 5 or lower instead. Since we have the BT22 Rena here, I'm going to attack once again, and since I attack, I'm going to return this to my hand to gain jamming as soon as I can to make sure Ulforce can survive the checks. At any time during this combo, if UlforceVeedramon would be threatened leaving the battle area, we can always suspend it to give it protection with the evade and with the Veemon inherent effect as well to keep it alive on the board. And then we can always use our Renas to play out our Tamers here to reposition itself so that we can continue the barrage of attacks over and over. Since I have 3 memory, I'm now going to play out this BT11 Rena once again for 3 costs so that it can unsuspend the Ulforce, and then this will gain me a memory here for doing so. And just like before, we're going to repeat the sequence here once again and over, suspending a BT11 Rena to play another one to unsuspend and gain a memory. Attack once more until we exhausted all the BT11 Renas that we have, as we continue to attack over and over, unsuspend again and again. Continue swinging with the Ulforce and continue to suspend the Rena to play another Rena and unsuspend. And since this Rena is played out once again, another extra 3000 DP until the end of the opponent's turn. Like I said, we'll continue to attack over and over, and this is where we get to choose to return this Rena back to our hand or not if we want to gain further jamming once again, which may not be necessary. So now that we ran out all of our BT11 Renas that we can play, this is where we're going to start playing out our lower cost V-Tamer ties, which only costs 2. And now we get to unsuspend here once again. And this is where we get to suspend the V-Tamer tie to either draw a card or buff up the Ulforce with another extra 1000 DP, which isn't necessary at this point. Continue to attack here. And then eventually, since we have 1 memory left, this is where we can go into Ulforce X for another 1 memory to unsuspend itself. Also returning one of the opponent's lowest level back to their hand, and then continuing to dish out the attacks. Alternatively, there are times that you can actually end the turn by going into Ulforce X. For example, where you pass your opponent to whatever memory it is, or for 1 by finishing that turn, and you have an unsuspended Ulforce X that can block the opponent's attacks. Where if you ever have a unsuspended BT11 Rena here, this is where you can really go for some fancy tricks. Because as you block the attack, you can suspend the Rena to activate its when Digivolving effect once again, to unsuspend to bounce your opponent's Digimon as you block the attack as well. Ultimately, once you get into Ulforce X, if you're not able to finish the game off with it, if you have it there, and as you start your main or start your turn here, with a fresh set of arenas in the battle area, this is where it goes absolutely crazy, because you can then make multiple attacks again and again and again with Ulforce X. And one memory is all you need, because once the arena is established, you attack with it, and because your UlforceVeedramon is suspended, you suspend the BT11 arena. To activate is when there's revolving effect to immediately unsuspend just like that. And by unsuspending, you're going to gain 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 memory, going all the way to 6. And then you repeat this combo over and over again until you have exhausted all your BT11 arenas, which is another crazy layer of barrage of attacks, which you can execute with Ulforce X. And that's exactly how you play this deck, as you go for an extreme amount of attacks with UlforceVeedramon in order to win your games. Draconic Blade is now live on the AVAULT Store, which is one of the most epic drops I ever released, and the first 50 people to order the full collection will get an exclusive memory marker during this time only. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are. See you next video, and this is AVAULT signing out.